Hello, it's Sarah from Hardcover Hearts, and I'm here today with my week of reading wrap-up. This is where I talk about the books that I finished this last week, the books that I'm currently reading, and then anything that's piquing my interest for the week ahead. So I had a good reading week, despite being so busy at work. So that's been a little challenging to kind of really spend the time that I usually like to reading, but let's go ahead and jump in. The first thing that I completed was the newest Louise Penny book. This is her most recent in her series. The series, I've heard it being called the Chief Inspector Armand Gamache series. I've also heard it called the Three Pines series. It's basically a police procedural-ish set in this fictitious little town called Three Pines in Quebec. And what makes this series so remarkable and so lovely is it's a very calm, very meditative, cozy mystery in the sense there's not any gore or violence, but it's very thoughtful, very philosophical. You really get into Armand Gamache's head as he approaches the problems that come from human interaction as he's trying to solve these murders. So it's really a wonderful series if you want to kind of have something that's a little slower and more thoughtful. But at the same time entertaining, this might be for you. So I enjoyed it. I didn't give it my normal 4 stars. I didn't pan it like I did the 10th book. The 10th book was horrible, and I will die on this hill. The 10th book was disaster. This was about I'd say it was a 3. I never really give mysteries a 5-star. I don't know why I don't, because for me 5 means I'll reread it. There's something there that it captured me so much. 4 for a mystery is fantastic. I gave it a 3. I enjoyed it, but what kept me from giving it a full-throated 4-star is that there was a thread that I was really, really interested in that dealt with climate and the impact of climate on the towns as the snow is melting. And I felt that it was so compelling and so interesting, and it just kind of fizzled. It just kind of thawed away and went in with the rainwater. So that was kind of a bummer because I really wanted to see where she was going to go with that. And it felt like maybe it was one of her more overt political statements. And I don't know if maybe she got a little nervous of really, really going for it. So I was a little disappointed there, but the rest of the story was good and in typical fashion. Next up is part of my first book of my recommended reading list by Bert Pastore. So Bert is a fantastic contributor to BookTube through his wife, Sean. So every once in a while he'll appear on Shawnee Reads. I found out about what he was doing off of Twitter. This was part of a fundraiser, and Bert offered up a personalized reading recommendation list to anybody who contributed a certain amount of money to a cause that they were supporting, and that was helping to get the children on the southern border of the United States, helping to get them legal care. So I thought it was wonderful. I support the cause and also wanted to support Bert's efforts. So I contributed and I received a list. I owe a video of all of the things he sent, and I am doing it this weekend. I'm finally just setting aside time and just going to do a bunch of videos that I have waiting. Tags, just a ton of stuff. So be on the lookout. That'll all be coming. So this was the first one that I started, and this is Sidewalks by Valeria Luiselli. This was really interesting. It was very fluid. It was very thoughtful. It was very intellectual exercise of these different essays on things like language and maps and home and just all sorts of different ways. It went in many, many different directions. It was a very fluid, wide-ranging. There were so many references that were listed in here that I know I didn't catch almost all of many of them. So this is something I have a feeling it's going to tingle in the back of my head as I hear a name or something, and I'll be like, oh right, I think I remember reading this. It challenged me because of there's so many things that I didn't know, and I know that there are times where that can intimidate some readers if they feel like, oh, I should be able to engage in a conversation, and I don't, and it's happening kind of around me or above my head. I actually find that really interesting, and I am challenged by that, and in a way that I like. She also plays with format in here, so they're like headers of one of the essays where it's like directions. I thought this was really a wonderful introduction to her writing because I haven't read any of hers before. I'm interested in how her mind works and the things that she's noting and how she's approaching the world and her worldview. So this was a really great introduction to her. If you like her writing, I think that this would be should be part of your collection, Sidewalks. And then next up was another challenging book. It was Supper Club by Lara Williams. This is a brand new release as well. Gorgeous cover. I immediately drawn to that. And then I heard it was like a feminist fight club. And I thought, what? Oh, piqued my interest right there. So I started reading it. It gave me a little bit more of a down market or commercialized version of My Year of Rest and Relaxation by Atessa Moshfegh. I'm going to try to briefly summarize. The brief summary is that this is a story about a young woman who's two timelines. There's like the college timeline, and then there's also the timeline post-college where she's out in the working world. It feels very millennial. She's kind of struggling with type of millennial things that are out there, and not really satisfied in her job, but at the same time not really satisfied with her relationships, and she's just kind of floating for lack of a better word. And she develops a friendship with an intern at her work that they have a connection, and this intern is an artist who really pushes her to think differently, and they decide that they're going to form this supper club, and it's a feminist supper club. And the whole point, it harkens back to a Roman bacchanal, I think that's how you pronounce it, where you just gorge on a ton of food, and it's very decadent, and it's about like I thought it was going to be more about pleasure. You hear about pleasure activism and all of that. I thought it was going to be something along those lines, but it was much more about taking up space and physically getting bigger because you're eating more and this is purposeful. But it also was very clear that there were also moments where you saw that it wasn't well thought out. And so the actions felt very juvenile. So they were lacking in some real deep thought behind it and more of a reaction to instead of a purposeful type of thing. So I would love to talk to anybody who's read this. I thought it was interesting. There were some things that were in there that I'm still thinking about. I don't know that I really liked it. I think there was maybe too much going on in here, but at the same time, I'm still thinking about it. And I'm always here for transgressive women, for women that are pushing boundaries, and I really especially love reading about that because we don't get many characters like that are doing such destructive things. So this goes a little lawless, and it gets a little there's a little chaos involved. So I'm interested. I'm kind of enjoying these types of books that are out there now about really pushing norms and inside women, the interiority of women who are willing to do that. So yeah, so I'd love to talk to you. If you have read this, please let me know in the comments below. Let's talk about it. And then what I'm reading currently, I need to finish this one up. So I literally have my book club tonight, and I only have a couple more hours. So I've gotta lock this in. I'm making progress, but I've got to finish it up. Then I am continuing to slowly read Ducks Newburyport. Still enjoying it, just needing to put the time against it. This will be our last week of How to Be Both by Ali Smith. this has been a joy to buddy read. So much material, so many layers, so many motifs, so many things to follow that I could see coming back to her work over and over and over again. And I see threads that she talked about here that ended up becoming Spring, her latest work. So having so much fun doing this with my buddy read partners. And then I'm also making my way through this huge tome. This is the Mitfords, and this is Letters Between Six Sisters. And I find these ladies fascinating, and their writing back and forth to each other is equally so. And then lastly, I'm really getting pumped and so excited for Booktober. So I found this brand new audiobook that was available from the library. I think I had signed up on the wait list and it became available. And it's called The Poison Thread by Lara Purcell. And it is giving me all the Booktober vibes. And it's almost like a kind of the similar trope that has always happened, where there's a prisoner who's being treated by some do-gooder from the outside who's trying to help, but it's both females. And the woman who's trying to give this charity work is a phrenologist. She's obsessed with thinking that we can determine people's characters by the bumps in their head. And the woman who she's obsessed with, who's imprisoned, killed her mistress. And so the story is unraveling, and I'm enjoying it, and I'm enjoying it very, very much. And the audiobook is very well narrated. And then I just feel like I just have so many things that are currently in play. Like last week, I don't know that I know what I'm going to be jumping to next. I have a whole list of Bert recommendations, so I'm going to grab one of those as well. But I don't know. You'll have to come back and see what I decided to pick up. As always, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate your time, and leave a comment below. What are you reading? Have you read any of these? What is your Booktober going to look like? I think I'm going to do a video of my plans for Booktober and put that with all the other videos that I've got to make this weekend. So that's it for now. Thank you. Bye.